What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA playoffs. Friday, June 25th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, I'm just going to cover the single game slates. These are way more popular. And then you can always check out each of these videos if you want to play the 2-game slate. So let's get into this NBA showdown between the Atlanta Hawks and the Milwaukee Bucks. So let's take a look at the point guard position. I like Trae Young from the Atlanta Hawks playing the Milwaukee Bucks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing point guards. Trae Young has averaged 43.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 33% usage rate. But he scored 70, 34, and 63 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 41, 43, and 40 minutes. So he's playing monster minutes, and he's projected at 52 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Trae Young here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, the other point guard that I like is Drew Holiday from the Milwaukee Bucks playing the Atlanta Hawks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing point guards. Drew Holiday has averaged 36.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 22% usage rate. And he scored 59, 32, and 49 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 41, 48, and 42 minutes. So he's playing monster minutes, and he's projected at 40.9 fantasy points here tonight. So he's got a good matchup here, and he's been playing really well lately, playing a ton of minutes. He's priced down a little bit, so I think you can fit him in there into your lineup. So I like Drew Holiday here versus the Atlanta Hawks. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. Now, this is a hit or miss play. He either is going to go out there and crush it, or he's going to go out there and flop. So it's a tournament play only. But I like Kevin Huerter from the Atlanta Hawks and playing the Milwaukee Bucks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. Kevin Huerter has averaged 24.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 17% usage rate. He scored 17, 42, and 42 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 36, 39, and 44 minutes. So he's playing a ton of minutes, and he's projected at 26.7 fantasy points here tonight. Now that's like the mid-range, that's his average, but he always seems to score something like 15 to 18 fantasy points or 35 to 40 fantasy points. So he's kind of a hit or miss player, but he's got a great matchup. So I like Kevin Huerter here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. I like Chris Middleton from the Milwaukee Bucks, and Chris Middleton has averaged 36.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 25% usage rate. He scored 32, 56, and 69 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 40, 52, and 42 minutes. He's projected at 42.6 fantasy points here tonight, so I like Chris Middleton here versus the Atlanta Hawks. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. Lots of options here at the power forward position. This is where you're gonna get the value in your lineup so you can fit the rest of those players in. But first, the stud pick here. I like Giannis Antetokounmpo from the Milwaukee Bucks. And he averaged 53.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 33% usage rate. He scored 71, 63, and 52 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 41, 50, and 41 minutes. He's projected at 58 fantasy points here tonight, so I like Giannis Antetokounmpo here versus the Atlanta Hawks. Okay, now if you're looking for some value at this position, this is a high risk, high reward play because we don't know how many minutes he's going to play, but he is super low salary. Take a look at Bobby Portis from the Milwaukee Bucks. He averaged 24.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 21 minutes per game with a 21% usage rate, and he scored 21 fantasy points in 14 minutes last game with a 25% usage rate. So he wasn't playing before that, but he got some action last game. So we'll see how many minutes he plays here tonight. So this is a high risk play, but in these tournaments, you're going to need to find that low salary player somewhere. And if he does get minutes, he's projected at 19.5 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Bobby Portis as a high risk, high reward play here versus the Atlanta Hawks. Okay, another power forward that I like is John Collins from the Atlanta Hawks. He averaged 31.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 29 minutes per game with a 22% usage rate. He scored 41, 39, and 17 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 36, 41, and 37 minutes. He's projected at 35.4 fantasy points here tonight, so I like John Collins here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, now this next pick, he's a DraftKings play only. At least for me, I think he's a DraftKings play only. It's PJ Tucker from the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, he only averaged 12.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 26 minutes per game with a 7% usage rate, and he scored 15, 32, and 16 fantasy points in the last 3 games, but he played 34, 38, and 34 minutes. So he's playing a ton of minutes. He's projected at 18 fantasy points here tonight. Now, he's $8,500 FanDuel salary, so I think I could find some better options on FanDuel, but he's only like $3,600 DraftKings salary. So I think he makes a really good DraftKings play as a low salary player that's going to play a ton of minutes and does have 30-point upside, although it's pretty rare. But even if he scores 18 to 20 plus fantasy points, that's going to be killer value over there on DraftKings. So I like PJ Tucker on DraftKings here versus the Atlanta Hawks. Okay, moving on to the center position. I like Clint Capela from the Atlanta Hawks, and Clint Capela has averaged 40 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. He scored 44, 25, and 28 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 37, 32, and 37 minutes. So he finally flashed that 40-plus fantasy point upside. His salary's still pretty low because he really hasn't played all that well throughout the playoffs. He's played awful through the playoffs. He hasn't been a good player to put in your lineup, up until yesterday, with the exception of maybe one or two other games. But he is projected at 37 fantasy points here tonight. His salary's still pretty low, so I like this play. I think he makes a good tournament play. So I like Clint Capela here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again and good luck.